Welcome to Stokemeter, and I am excited to have John Hackelman on the show. How you doing, John?
Man, honestly, if I was any better right now, I don't even know what to say. I would be. I'm not gonna make any young Asian boy jokes just because you're right here. So I'm just gonna say I'm great.
That is awesome. Well, and for those of you that might not know, John is one of the premier coaches in MMA today. He has students, probably the most famous that is out there is Chuck Liddell, but also you have Glover Teixeira, and I always completely name his last name, and Court McGee, Ramsey Nicham. There's a whole slew of fighters that he has coached, and
Tim
it's
Kennedy.
amazing to see your impact is on the sport. And so, you have that Hawaiian Kempo, and I had always heard of Hawaiian Kempo, but before I knew about the MMA, I didn't realize that you had started that. And so, I'm just wondering, what can you tell us about Hawaiian Kempo?
Hawaiian Kempo is more than anything. It's a culture and it's a way of life.
Right.
Because there's no proprietary like katas or like choreographed movements like taiokas, katas, punch tricks, grab arts, sets. They call it sets in American Kempo. We don't have anything that's proprietary to our system. It's kind of like Jeet Kune Do. It would be like Jeet Kune Do.
Yep.
I started with Kaja Kempo, which is from Hawaii, 1947. It was originated, and it's a street fighting art, hardcore art. It was actually created for the locals so they could beat up haoles in Hawaii when all the haoles were there after World War II. There was a lot of military guys there, so these local guys, the 5 of them, Emperado and I can't remember the rest of them. But they came up with a system of street fighting, and it was Kaju Kempo: karate, judo, jiu-jitsu, Kempo, and boxing.
Right.
And they would go to like different recreation centers or parks and practice different movements. And then they would go down to Hotel Street
Yep.
at night and beat up some haoles to try out their techniques.
Oh.
And it turned into a full-on martial art, and they started adding stuff like katas and stuff to it, but it was still a hardcore art, and that's what I started with in 1970. I started with that.
Wow.
And I did that all the way until 1985, where I started my own system, and I called it Hawaiian Kempo because I didn't want to do any more katas. I just didn't see a use for them. I love them. I love to watch them, but I just didn't feel a need to have them in my system. And I just couldn't. I was thinking of a name, and Kempo. I love the word Kempo with an M, and because it means law of the fist. So it's like I like that word Kempo.
Yeah.
And then I'm from Hawaii, and my system's from Hawaii, so I was like, I'll call it Hawaiian Kempo. And so in 1985, I came up with Hawaiian Kempo, and I came up with a logo, and it was in my backyard. I started training people in Woodland Hills, California, right in my backyard. And Hawaiian Kempo and the logo and the culture of Hawaiian Kempo started. And I just wanted it to be a fighting art, and anything that was just like Jeet Kune Do, one of my heroes, Bruce Lee, whatever works, I used. And when I found out stuff didn't work, I would get rid of it. I wanted the traditions to be real, not just traditions for tradition's sake. I wanted every tradition to be a useful one. And so like when people would come in and spar, they'd say, what are the rules? I say, there's no rules, man. Just just hit as hard as you want to be hit, and there's no other rules. And in the beginning, it was super, super striking heavy because that's my forte.
Right.
But then I realized that some guys would come in from the street and start training, and they had a wrestling background or football background, and next thing you know, you start punching them. They don't like getting punched, so they're taking you down. So I realized really quick, really early in my teaching career, that I had to address takedowns and defending takedowns, and then getting off the bottom if you end up on the bottom. So that has become a big part of our system.
Yeah.
But so that's what Hawaiian Kempo is. It's a family. It's a ohana.
Yep.
It's we just had a belt ceremony last week. There was hundreds of people that show up. Did you see that video?
I did. Well, the one with Chuck coming over. And also,
oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a different one. Yeah.
That was
well, Chuck got his black belt. It's a funny story, and this is true. Glover last month, he brought 6 of his guys over to get their black belts from me, right? From the pit, right? Hawaiian Kempo. So he brought 6 of, and I think 4 of them were actual high-level fighters, UFC, Bellator, LFA fighters.
Oh, no.
But they're his students, so he promoted them. So they're his students. So they got their black belt here. They flew from Connecticut to California, got their black belt. And then one of my students who runs the pit Malibu, Rick Metzler, who is my first black belt with Chuck. He got his black belt the same day as Chuck. And he realized that when Glover them just got their black belt, it was January 17th, 2021. It was exactly to the day 25 years from the time that Chuck and I promoted my first Hawaiian Kempo black belts. That's how long.
Fantastic, man. That's fantastic. Yeah. It's amazing to see that involvement. I remember watching Chuck in the earlier fights when he was fighting Couture and all those folks like that, and just your ability to stay away from getting taken down. It was pretty neat. It was obvious that evolution had happened.
Yeah.
Well,
and he was a huge part of like I teach my guys so many things. I try to make them better. But at the end of the day, to be honest, a lot of them, they're teaching me stuff too. I learn a lot from Glover. My curriculum has changed because of Glover. My curriculum has changed because of Chuck.
Yep.
My curriculum has changed because of Tim Kennedy. My curriculum has changed because of, Ricardo Laborio, Sammy Henson, silver medalist, freestyle wrestler, Matt Linland, Greco-Roman. I have no problem stealing shit from people.
Right.
But I have no problem giving shit to people too. So I think it turns out pretty, it's kind of a give and take.
Right. That is fantastic. I apologize because of dumb phones going in the background, but it's funny because you mentioned a lot about the evolution of and learning from all your students. And it's funny because there's a lot of folks that aren't willing to learn from anybody because they think they know it all. And what's interesting, the first time I ever met you was in Henderson, Nevada, at that CrossFit gym. Now this has got to be close to a decade ago, and I'll never forget it, man. Yeah. You were walking around 405 pounds. You had 4 plates on both sides, and you were just, where do you want it, right? But it was you were helping the CrossFit owner at the time train for MMA. But then I remember you were also telling us how that training impacted the way that you viewed how to prepare your fighters as well. And could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's called CrossFit.
Yeah.
And I've had so many people come up and go, how can you call it CrossFit? That's like plagiarism, that's like copyright. Well, first of all, Greg Glassman, the owner of CrossFit, he's the one that named it CrossFit.
Right.
we were a CrossFit gym,
Right.
but I just didn't like a lot of the weight stuff, and it was taking too much, injuries from my fighters. But I loved the culture of CrossFit and the way they did their different, name their workouts, workout of the day. I liked all that stuff. I just didn't like the part of it. It was taken away from my fighters, but part of it I loved. So I started putting in fighting stuff and using it for my workout of the day. So Greg Glassman just said, just call it CrossFit and just make it. It's like so we teach CrossFit, and it's the same. It's the same in a lot of ways. It's just there's certain things that it's MMA or it's martial arts specific workouts, and I just call it CrossFit. So we do a lot of shit like we'll do stuff like get off the bottom real quick, then do burpees, then get on the bottom again, and then try to escape off the bottom, and then do more burpees and get on the bag. And then we mix up getting people really, really tired and then putting them in a situation which simulates a fight. Because you can't do that with a fight. Like you can't just spar really hard and then get in shape that way, because you're gonna scramble your brain, you're gonna get cut. You can't spar hard all the time, or you'll always be injured. You can't even grapple really that hard all the time, or you'll have a dislocated shoulder, broken elbow. You're gonna get injured. So you have to be able to control your sparring, grappling, and stuff. But then when you do your conditioning in a fight, you can't control it. So you have to be able to get your cardio or your anaerobic threshold way up here. And the only safe way to do that is extreme workouts, which aren't going to get you hurt. So some people are like, you just spar your way into shape. No. But then those are the guys that are slurring their speech and they're always hurt. They're always injured. And I don't want my fighters to always be injured, because number one, that's not fun. No. And number two, they're not going to make any money and win any titles.
Yep. That is exactly right. And I loved it. The CrossFit, man. That's awesome. It really is.
We actually can use that now legally. We can use that legally too.
You can. CrossFit. Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. Well, you definitely, if Billy Banks can make all that movement, this is another movement, man, going forward.
Billy Banks, yeah.
Well, another thing though, too, I should have started with this though, too, is, when I first met you, I would never in a million years think that you were someone that would ever have been bullied. And so when I read more about you after our initial meeting, it's interesting because you grew up a Caucasian guy in Hawaii, and oftentimes, I lived there for a number of years too, and sometimes it's a hostile environment. But could you take us through that? I don't want to rehash any old memories and such, but what got you into the martial arts as far as the bullying, and what was the process of learning that you did from that, for lack of a better word?
Well, we moved there as I think I was 4 or 5.
Right.
And my dad moved us there. He got a job there. And then my mom, they got divorced really quick. And when I started grade school, 2nd grade,
right.
My mom, I guess she heard from some friends at work that, it's really rough on a young white kid. I had long blonde hair and stuff. And it's tough on a white kid in the schools. So she pulled some strings and got me to a kind of a nicer school, even though it was really close to where I live, but it was a little nicer. I was like right near a nicer area, Kahala, but I lived in Kamiki, which isn't really a nicer area. So I'm from Kamiki, but I got to go to Kala Elementary, and that was kind of good. It was good, but it was bad. It was good because it was a nicer school. I didn't get beat up there, but I heard story because their intermediate school, which is junior high school, right? It wasn't nice, and there was no nice one. Like Obama, he thinks he always talks about racism and shit. It's like, they love Black people in Hawaii. There's no racism against Black people in Hawaii,
Right.
none.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when he talks about racism, grew up in Hawaii, he's like, they love this. There's no racism. They're like, that's like being a racist against a white person in the South. It's just, there is none. And he went to Punahou, which was a very, very, very rich, exclusive school.
Yeah.
No race, but most of the kids that went to Kahala Elementary went to Punahou, Iolani, or whatever, right?
Yes. Yep.
But we couldn't afford that. So I was going to go to Kamiki Intermediate, which was a rough. So I would go from a really soft grade school into throwing me right into the fire, where I didn't get toughened up in the grade school. So I was just, I would be a sitting duck at Kamiki, and I knew that. Somehow I knew that. So, and my parents weren't really in tune with that, because it wasn't a big of deal for adults there. They didn't realize. As a kid, you hear that every day. Hey, you fucking howley, go back to the mainland. Hey, fucking howley, this, fucking howley that, and every day. So like when I don't want to get political, but anyway, so I knew I was gonna be in trouble. People were telling me, hey, if you don't go to Punahou, man, or you're gonna get your ass whipped at Kamiki. So I was like, fuck, I was paranoid. Kill Howley Day,
Yeah, I remember.
I heard about Kill Howley Day. It's like, so right around 5th grade, I knew I had to do something. I just knew I had to do it. I guess it was like, my preservation, my survival. Sure. So I started looking in the yellow pages for a martial arts school, because I knew I had to do something. My parents weren't, they didn't really help me with anything there. So I found a place on my own in the yellow pages and got the address. I taught 2 buses. I actually caught the bus to Waila Avenue in Kamiki.
Yep.
And I caught the I think it was called the Kapilani bus, and it went down to Kapilani Avenue, right next to Alamoana Shopping Center, on Pecoy Street, above Aloha Water. Wait, it was Hawaii Waterbeds or something. Right above it, there was like a 500 square foot room with a punching bag and a makiwara.
Oh yeah,
that's where it was. And that's where it was. And I like walked in. There's no kids classes like now. Everything's kids, and they do games, and let's build confidence today, and let's talk about politeness. And back then it was just like you go in a room and it was just a bunch of guys training. And it was like I walked in. I swear to God, I walked in, and as soon as I walked in, it was like 500 square foot. It was like nothing. There was a heavy bag and a makiwara, and I just said. I thought to my head, I just said, this is it, man. I'm never going to leave this place. I don't know why. I just felt like this was my new home.
Right.
And I walked in there. I met Godin, who's this big Hawaiian guy, all tattooed. You got pictures of him somewhere. He was sitting in his office, and he had rings, fancy rings, and he had gold, gold jewelry, a lot of necklaces. Right. He was a drug dealer. And that the gym was just something so he could have an office and something for fun. Right. He was like, I mean, let's not forget, he just got out of prison, and then a few years later he went back again. But he was a drug dealer who was a Kaja Kempo guy under Emperado. And I went in there. I just said, I want to train. He goes, okay. Hey. I didn't know how much it was, so I brought my mom gave me like $10 or something. So I gave him $10. He goes, all right. And then I started training, and I trained with him. He was my mentor from 1970 till he died in 2001. Oh, wow. And I took over his system of, when he died, I was the number one guy. I was the number one, his number one student. I'm not trying to brag, but so I took over his system, and he died. So he taught me. It was just unbelievable experience. Without him, I guarantee you, if I didn't meet Godin and I went to Kamiki Intermediate, I would have been killed, or I would have been the guy that always looks down, and I would be wearing a floral dress right now. I guarantee you that. Right. I would be like just a timid little beta male. I would be a beta male if it
Man,
wasn't for him.
you know,
He turned me into a tough guy.
yeah,
And that was his thing, that was his uh that was that was his biggest thing he gave me. Between forget the techniques and stuff for Kaji Kempo, I got my black belt under him.
right,
Um, but his attitude and the way he taught and the way he made his students, which was a very small group. I mean, Godin hardly has any black belts.
right,
He made it so when I got to Kamiki Intermediate,
right.
right, I was able to become the guy. I mean,
Yep.
nobody messed with me in Kamiki. Nobody. I mean,
Right,
and I
right,
couldn't figure out why. I guess it's something that he instilled in me,
right.
so I could fight. And I did have to fight a couple times. Like one time, Daryl Silva said, "Fucking Holly, give me your lunch money" once, and I think it was in the cafeteria, and I ended up kicking him I ended up hitting him with a punch, and then kicking him right in the chest with a roundhouse kick, and then just flurrying him. And I remember that everybody was around, and he was like the big bully of school.
Right.
And I remember everybody just looking like, "What the fuck?" And I
Yeah.
remember from that day forward, I could just go wherever. Even as a small Holly kid with long blonde hair, I
Yeah.
could just go up to anyone. "Hey, what you looking at?" I could just.
Yeah.
It changed everything. It changed everything. For the rest of my life, because of Godin and Daryl Silva,
Right. Right.
nobody ever picked on me again, except for my wife now. But that's a whole different story.
Hey,
That's a
that'll
whole
always be
different
the
story.
case, though. That's always
Oh
the
my
case. It's a
God.
good thing.
Talk about, because I could tell, I could walk down Vegas and you go, "Okay, take a picture." Hey, I can see the heavyweight champion of the world. "Hey, Pitmaster, how you doing? You need some?" And then all of a sudden, my wife, I get home, my wife and my kids and my stepkids, they're like, "Hey, go get me a fucking coffee, John." It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not good. It's not good. It's not good.
Hey, that means you're a good dude, man.
Or a sucker.
It's really cool what you mentioned about Godin, because I didn't know that backstory. And if you
Yeah.
think about it, I mean, anyone, if you look at today, he's a prisoner, he was a drug dealer and everything like that. I go, my kid, what can he
Huge.
learn from someone like that?
Oh, my mom never knew. My mom never knew until I was an adult. She goes, "Oh my God, I can't," because I used to go over and stay at his house. He would take me. He would take me out for business stuff, like
Right.
business stuff. Yeah, when I was a teenager and stuff, he would. I would go with his collecting. I would do with his drop offs. I would do all kind of crazy shit.
Right.
And all his black belts, who were big local guys we all wore black gis,
Right.
and it was a rough situation. All his black belts, he had Sonny Nahino, Biggie, all these nickname guys, Smiley, all these nickname guys. And I was the Howley guy, but I would go with them, and they would look at me like I was the toughest guy. And and I was like, I would walk around like, and nobody would mess with me. I'd like think, if they only knew. I was like, they could just kick but they didn't. And it's because of Godin's influence and the way he was, and
Right.
that rubbed off.
That is so cool, because again, you learn some, not only a martial art, but Hawaii, the Ohana, right? The family.
Yeah, it is a big family.
You did it, and it was one of that family. And it's interesting to see you learn from someone that people probably wouldn't pay attention to and even avoid, and then you begin to teach others this art, and now you have that global influence. I mean, when you look at the humble beginnings of that, from being bullied to going to Godin and then learning all that stuff, it's amazing the journey you've been on, man. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's like, this is what happened this weekend. Like, can you see that? Am I there?
Oh, what is it? It's who is that?
It's just a bunch of my. You know what? Let me take all this off. This is Oh, can you do? No, I won't do that. This is our students. You can't see it, huh?
Yeah, it's blending in with your background, is what it is.
Let me do this real quick, and then I'll put it back on. I took it off, and I'll take off this. Okay, background, because this is there you go. So this is this weekend. So um like this is if you just kind of look at it, this is this weekend.
Right.
This is, you see it?
Oh
This is this weekend.
yeah. Oh, look at all those little cakeys. No way.
That's the belt ceremony. And
No
we got
way.
adults, we got guys going, yeah, and so watch. We
Oh,
did kind of and a lot of people are outside because they're, a lot of people are still having the
the
fear
COVID
of the
thing.
whole, yeah.
Yeah.
And I told people you can go outside or inside, it's up to you. And I mean, you see all the parents and they're all lined up by and then all the kids and even adults are getting their belts. And
Nice.
so that was this weekend. That was that's what Godin, um, even with Godin's, history. I mean, he was in jail for manslaughter. I mean, he was a strong armor. I mean,
Right.
I've seen him do terrible things to people. I mean,
Right. Right.
but he was also big, and luckily I have a good moral compass for the most part.
Right.
My dad was a really straightforward, just no nonsense guy who was just no, he was the moral compass. Godin was my toughness.
Got
So
it.
I'm glad that it wasn't, if I didn't have a dad, or I had a dad that was not as strong as my dad, World
Right.
War II vet, he went to West Point, he was
Right.
an infantry guy. Um, and Godin was my power. He was the guy that was like, nobody's gonna ever fuck with me again. And
Yep.
he instilled that in me. But then he was also a drug dealer. He killed people. He did terrible things to
Right.
people. But then I had my dad who had this strict moral compass. So I got to combine the two. And then I had this great guy at school because I had a hard time senior and stuff. I was already on my own.
Right.
And he helped me a lot. Mr. Kadikaru, who was my high school special motivation counselor for all the bad kids, and he helped me so much. In fact, I just talked to him last night. I still stay in touch with him. So he was, to me, he was my kindness. He was where I learned like how to be kind to people, because my dad wasn't really that kind. He was just like a straightforward guy.
Sure. Yeah.
But he was a moral, very, never do any crime or anything. So I
Yeah.
had Godin, then I have my dad, and then I have Mr. Kadikaru.
What's amazing about that whole thing is when you take a look at the way that you've looked at martial arts too, it's taking the stuff that works and doesn't. It's kind of an accumulation of all the people that you've been around too. I'm sure you
Yeah.
have the soft side, the logical side, the tough side, all of that. And understanding this about you even more is something that is very enlightening. I'm not gonna lie, that's great stuff. And I'm just so knowing this now, I'm just wondering, how is it that you influence those that are, I mean, they're world famous now, but before they were world famous, how did you utilize the lessons learned from all these unbelievable mentors and then instill in them their method of fighting, their method of viewing the world?
Well, one thing is, because I came up the way I came up, and a lot of the stuff was bad. I admit that, and I did some really bad things. But the worst thing I did, even because the people that maybe I hurt in the old days, they
Yeah.
deserved it in my
Yeah.
eyes. I can
Sure.
rationalize that.
Sure.
But I wasn't really nice to women. I didn't hit women, but I
Right.
was a cheater. And I wasn't a good boyfriend. I wasn't a good husband in the beginning, and that's something I regret. Like, and that's the way Godin was, and he was like that. And
Right.
I looked up to that, and that's the way you be a man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I realized really, I always had a thing at the pit. If you get in a fight outside the gym, that's not self-defense. I always said, you're out. Whether you're one of my fighters or
Right.
one of my students, you're out. You're out.
Right.
And and if you cheat on your wife or your girlfriend, you're out. So I try to bring in certain hard line rules from, like, my kids. When they get, you saw how many kids we had. We have a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
kids.
tons of them. Tons of them.
But when one thing they have to do before they get their belt is, we give them we give them a form for their
Right.
parents and their teacher to fill out. And I don't really care about grades because I'm a martial arts school. Some people, it might just be not that smart. I'm not going to not promote them if they're not that smart. But it also says on that sheet, have you ever seen, this student abuse his martial arts? Has this student been disrespectful to you or his peers? And it has
Oh,
those
nice.
questions. So if
Yeah.
they check that the kid's disrespectful, they don't get their belt.
Wow.
So we
Wow.
have to. So I want to be a tough school. I want to be rough. I want nobody to take my guys' lunch money, and I want them to hit first, definitely if they're being bullied.
Right.
But they also have to treat their student, their peers, and their parents and their teachers with respect, or they're going to get a talking to by me,
Yeah.
or they're not going to, or they just won't promote.
Wow. Wow. So you're instilling some really strong character in these kids, man. I love it. Well, even your elite fighters,
Yeah.
it's obvious you have a fantastic relationship with
Well,
them.
you're not gonna see them. I'm not gonna name the guys, but you
Yeah.
see some of the way people act now in
Yeah.
in the UFC even.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if I had a guy acting like some of those guys, they would have been gone
Yep.
a long time ago. I don't care how much money they're making or might making me.
Yep.
They would never be in the gym. They would be out. So you'll never see. You never saw Chuck act like that, or
No.
Glover, or any of those guys. They'll never act like that. Just they would
No.
never do that.
No. And you bring up an interesting point. I don't think I ever saw Chuck really talk smack ever.
No,
Ever.
he never did. No, the
Yeah.
only one, yeah, yeah. Him and Tito had a thing for a while,
Sure. Sure.
which is over now, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that's laid to rest. But
Right.
it wasn't. You never saw 'em bad smack talking. They just didn't like each other. Now
Yeah.
they do, I think.
Yeah.
They do now, but they didn't. And then he
Right.
didn't like Vernon White for some reason. I never could figure out why, but that's other than that, he liked his opponents. He's just to him it was just a fight, and
Yeah.
that's the way Glover is. Look at Glover. Glover's so respectful and nice. Court McGee's like he's best friends with his opponents, all of them. He's like he like goes to dinner with them and shit. And he fucking writes them Christmas cards and shit.
Oh
He's
no.
like he's fucking. I might be exaggerating a little, but I mean he's like I mean, they're all like that. They're
Yeah.
respectful, Bushido. They're just that live that way. They're not fucking assholes. They're not
Yeah.
assholes. None of. You'll never see a pit guy being an asshole more
That is.
than once.
You know what? That's true. That's true. I
Yeah.
don't. When I met up with you over at the pit elevated down there in Utah back in the day, the fighters were pretty respectful. There
Yeah.
wasn't
Oh,
not.
look at that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All of
Yeah.
them.
Ramsey and Cord and
Steve Seiler and
Siler. Oh my God.
yeah.
Siler and Chuck. Well, Glover now. Glover's grown to this sport. Is like he just loves what he's doing, and you can tell when he's at the gym, training. You just tell how much he loves. He's having so much fun.
Yeah.
And then when he's in the dressing room, most guys in the dressing room, they start like getting a little nervous, getting edgy. In the dressing room, it's like a party. It's like goofing around and hanging out, and we do prayer and we do hang out. Then walking out to the cage. He's so happy after the fight, win or lose. He's just like, yeah. He's like that. Siler's like that.
Yeah.
Chuck was like that.
Yeah.
Court
They have-
McGee, not so much. Court McGee gets a little. Court gets wound up before a fight. He gets a little more focused and shit. But like Siler, he's like he was playing games with his opponent, video game. I like a cell phone. Like they're like this close to each other playing a video game, and they're fighting in a little while. It's like, bro, you guys are fighting. What are you doing? He goes, I know, coach. We just gotta finish this game. And it's like Siler's crazy. He's so calm. It's
He
just
is.
nuts.
He's
really
such a
is.
good kid too, man.
He
Such
really
a
is.
good kid.
He really is.
It's awesome because I'm looking at this and there's a side that I didn't even realize. I mean, the camaraderie I've always seen in the martial arts and what you convey, but just seeing what's really important and seeing how teaching these fighters perspective and enhancing that through that ohana spirit, that family spirit.
Yeah.
It's
It's
pretty
it's
revealing to me. I mean, John, this is
it's so important. It's so important. And guys, they all have, almost all of them have it. Like
right.
guy like Stipe, a guy like I'm trying to think of other. Okay, Thiago Santos, who Glover just beat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Carlos Condit, who Court just fought. I mean, they're
Right.
just great people, and they're
Yeah.
just coming together and they fight and they love each other and they love the sport and they love what they're doing. They love they're ohanas all the way. They're true, martial arts. They're not just fighters. Some of them come off like that,
Yeah.
and a lot of them. There's probably, I don't even know what the percentages, but there's a very small percentage that are just assholes. I mean,
Sure.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah, a couple of them get pretty high up there in the sport too. I
Yeah.
wish they didn't, but
Yeah.
they are, but the majority of them, a huge percentage of them,
Right.
they're great guys. They really are great guys. When
Yeah.
I go to a UFC, one of my guys fighting or whatever, and I'm with the UFC guys, the fighters, the coaches, and I just can just relax. And
Yeah.
I know, because when I'm out, usually I'm usually like nervous, and I'm just a nervous guy, always looking around, and especially nowadays.
Oh yeah.
But I've always been like that, just always looking at the door when I'm at a restaurant, and
Sure.
but when I'm with a bunch of UFC guys, man, I can just relax because these are the guys, and
Yeah. Yeah.
martial artists, martial alpha males.
Yep.
Being around alpha males, I feel so comfortable. Being around beta males, not
Yeah.
so much.
Well, and it's interesting though too, because if you look at some of the things that we were talking about with those alpha males, they really have that soft spot. I mean, a lot of them,
Oh God,
good
yeah.
grief. It's amazing how genuine and, lack of a better word, gentle they are.
Oh, you said just I could think of this just last week, just this last weekend when Overeem got beat,
Yeah. Yep.
right? And then
Yep.
his opponent, they're hugging after the fight. It makes me want to cry because
Yep.
it makes me feel so proud to be a part of this. And like they love they have caring. They're so nice.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
hugging a guy that he was just trying to fucking knock out.
Yes. Yes. I
The
know.
guy's hugging him. The
Yeah.
guy's hugging him after getting knocked out by him.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that kind of stuff means probably more to me than any other part of the sport. When I see that, that's why, like on my Instagram, I'm always putting that stuff up
Right. Right.
because to me that makes you feel good, and
Oh,
it's real, and that's the way martial arts are. Like even the guys that I came up with, they're not nice guys. They're in
sure.
jail.
Sure.
Godin spent, I don't know, a good majority of his life in jail, you know,
Right.
but they had that ohana,
Yep.
and I try to take that part, and then this forget the rest of it,
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
then try to kind of like Bruce Lee or take what works and discard what doesn't. So I
Yeah.
take that with the techniques. Like I'm never going to teach a kata, and
Yep.
I'm not gonna go fucking do drugs and be an asshole to people.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an asshole to people. I mean, certain things. I don't know.
Sure. Sure.
Forget it. Scratch that.
Well, John, that's what I love about you, though. You're real. What you see is what you get. And
Yeah,
every time
that's
I've
good
spoken with
sometimes.
you, it's just you're 100% there, and that's what I appreciate. It's something that I mean, you look at. I talk to some people. I go, "Hey, I'm going to talk to John Hackelman," and they go, "Wait, no, wait, what?" We just had some folks put in a dryer. I go, "Hey, I gotta get. I have an interview with John Hackelman." He about fell off the truck, man. But they don't have the visibility that I've had today, and that is that completely approachable, completely it's like a brotherhood, and it's
Yeah,
really something
but
that
who isn't?
yeah,
Who isn't in
yeah,
martial arts? I mean,
yep,
you maybe on one hand I can count the people that aren't, and I mean
yeah,
I'm not going to name them, but
yeah,
I could maybe think of 5 people in the UFC.
yeah, yep,
Well, there's more. There's more because I'll tell you one.
yeah,
I forget his name. The guy from like Mississippi, the twister guy that does all the submissions, and he
Mm.
wanted the camo shorts. Remember?
Oh, yeah. Who is that?
I forget, but
What
he
was it? Yeah,
I forget his name. He
yeah,
had a mullet and shit.
yeah, yeah. I know. I
He
know what
wouldn't.
you're
He wouldn't
talking-
take.
Yeah.
He wouldn't respond. He wouldn't respond to my message. So like he's a fucking big leaguer now. Some guys turn into big leaguers when they get tired. Like, you know what? This is what drives me fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Like some guys won't even respond. Like I text them or I do a Facebook message or an Instagram message. They don't respond, and I'm
Right.
thinking, oh, they must have too many followers. Maybe that's why. And then I'll text like Tony Robbins, right?
Yeah.
He probably has a few million, right?
Oh,
I get
yeah,
a
a
response
lot.
in like 3 minutes.
Oh my
So I'm
God.
like, oh, so
Yeah.
it's like,
One of the
fuck
most
it then. If somebody
actually
big leagues me, fuck them.
yeah. I love it. You get big league. Well, that's an interesting thing though, too, because and Tony Robbins, when you look at it in the space of motivational, he is the alpha. I mean, he's way up there, right? And he's
And
returning your text in
he was on my podcast.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
He did a testimonial. I asked him to do a testimonial video about me because he knows me.
Yeah.
He knows maybe about me and my training and stuff. So
Yeah.
a little testimonial from my school, just like a 30-second testimonial about me as an instructor.
Yeah.
I got it in like 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, I got a fucking video from him. What? You're busier than Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
Get the
No,
fuck out. No, these guys are not busier than Tony Robbins, and they're fucking big leaguing me.
oh,
These guys are too busy to train. I got one of my top students. He's an orthopedic surgeon with 4 kids. He goes to their 2 of them are in college. He goes to their water polo matches. He goes to there. He makes training twice a week, no matter what. But
dang.
other people are too busy. I go, how are you that busy? You're
Yeah.
not that busy.
Yeah.
So
Well, you bring
I
up
hate being big leagued. I hate being big leagued.
well, you do bring up an important thing though, too. It goes back to what we were saying. You were talking to me earlier. Is you take what works, and then you throw away what doesn't, and you look at time, and that's exactly what you're talking about. So when you get big league, what are you getting big league for? To impress someone else bigger, or is it?
I can't figure. I don't know. Chuck's never big league people, but
Yeah.
like it's like you look at these people and
Right.
Tony Robbins is so fucking busy. I mean, because I've been to his house.
Right.
I've hung out with him.
Right.
We hung out. He came to my gym once,
Right.
and you just see how busy he is. Now, look at something like Glover Teixeira.
Yeah.
Okay, Glover Teixeira, he's the #1 light heavyweight in the UFC, in the whole
Okay.
world. In the whole world. Okay.
Right.
How many people do you think can say that on this planet? That they made it
Not a
that
whole
high.
lot. Yeah.
Now, but then you don't stop there.
Right.
He also runs a successful business. He's an entrepreneur. He runs his own gym. He owns his own gym in Connecticut.
Right.
He runs his own, right. So he owns his own gym. How many guys do those? Okay, you don't even stop there, because most people can never get to the top. A lot of people can't ever run their own gym, do that, right? He does both of those things. Then you go, wow, that's a lot. Wait, he's the head coach of a really successful fight team.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And he has top fighters. So how busy? I mean, okay. Now he's also a landlord. He owns rental property. He owns rental property. So those are 4 things right there. How does he juggle that? That's like Stephen Covey's nightmare, right? I mean, how the fuck you gotta what kind of planner do you think he has?
Right.
And now he's also a family man.
Right.
Who spends a lot of time with his wife and his friends, right? And he has a very well, it's well-rounded life that he has.
Right.
But those 4 things that he juggles, each one of them in and of itself is as much or more than most people could do at all. So, just you look at these people as like, you're big leaguing me and I got Glover calling me right back, shut the
Yeah.
fuck up.
Well,
If someone big leagues me, I just drop them. They're like, I
yeah,
will not call them. Even if I want them on my podcast,
yeah.
I don't want them anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Like,
that's
so,
fine. It's Glover and Tony Robbins, and I mean
yeah.
Liddell. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, Tim Kennedy's pretty busy too. I get called, I mean, he's
Right,
not a big leaguer. He's a fucking down to earth guy. He's
right.
one of my first. He started the pit,
I love it, man.
and he's talk about he's still active duty in the army.
What?
He's still active
I didn't know
duty
that.
and a top UFC fighter. He was, and he runs this great program, called Sheepdog Response, where he's teaching people how to defend themselves if somebody breaks into their house and shit. I mean,
No way.
yeah. So and I get calls from him. You're not busier than Tony Robbins, Chuck Liddell, Glover Teixeira, these guys who actually text me back. So
Yeah.
if someone big leagues me, that kind of guy is the kind of person I just like, whatever. Fuck
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, you know what I love? Heck, we only met a couple of times. You totally didn't big league me, man. So I appreciate it. Well, man, I sure appreciate the time, John. This is magic. And
love it.
I hope we could do something like this again, because I have a feeling that a lot of people will resonate with this.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
just I would love to go down to one of your gyms over here. I know there's one over here in Boise, but just to see all those family members and understand.
Cruz is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Cruz Gomez is a top level fighter. He had over 30 pro fights. He's beat some good guys, UFC guys.
Wow.
And then now he has such a family feel in his gym. Go to his Instagram.
Yeah.
I think it's Idaho Pit or the Pit Idaho.
Yep.
I think it's the Pit Idaho. And you just see that, just like our gym,
right?
And you look at Ramsey Nisham, he has the Pit Salt Lake City.
Yep.
Glover has Teixeira MMA.
Right.
We have the Pit Malibu. It's all these gyms are family. We have Pit Arizona.
Yeah.
Family first for all our gyms. I mean, it's like, no matter how good the fighters or how many, like Glover, Glover has the best striker in the world right now training with Alex Pereira.
Yeah, you were saying that he hits hard, man. Like just one of the hardest.
Ever. He's training these guys, but he treats his gym like a family. It's like a family. He's like the big brother.
That's so fantastic, man. Fantastic. If there's any takeaways, well, actually the major takeaways I have from this conversation, again, it goes back down to family, or ohana, Hawaiian style.
Yeah.
It goes back to really sticking with what works and getting away with what doesn't, and essentially learning balance. I look at your three mentors. You have logic, you have toughness, you have gentleness. It's amazing. So I have a feeling.
Look at the Gracies. I mean, just the way that they came in. I'm not the big grappling fan, but I mean, they came in and just said, "Fuck it, let's go."
Yep.
No rules. I'll beat you on any rules you want, and that's I appreciate the hell out of it. I think that's the way Bruce Lee meant. Yes, Bruce Lee's mentality. That was Benny the Jet Urquidez's mentality.
Yeah,
so I love that.
I forgot about Benny. That guy could move back in the day, man.
That's where I got probably 80% of my fights were out of his gym.
Oh, I didn't know. That's awesome.
Yeah, I fought for the Jet Center.
Wow.
Me and I was roommates with Sugarfoot, Pete Cunningham.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That dude was fast, man.
Oh
Holy moly, that guy was fast.
yeah, he was. He's not as fast anymore. I think he's had one. I think he's had double hip replacements now.
Oh, that man. That's the only bummer about getting old, man. Well, John, is it all right if we do another show down the road?
Anytime, brother. Just give me a shout. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, thanks a ton for everything.
Thanks, brother.
And we'll catch up soon, all right?
Yeah, let me know who this is so I can put it out.
You know I will, man. Thanks a ton, dude.
All right, brother. Thanks.
Bye.